y'all, my name is Serena and this is Serena's Art Adventures. I know that it is only August and some of us are just barely returning to school. However, cozy season is just around the corner, so I really wanted to share some elevated blanket patterns with you guys today. It's one thing to make blankets. We all love to make them. They're nice, easy, mindless patterns. I love that you don't have to think about the shape of a blanket. It's just a square or a rectangle, and you just keep going until you are satisfied in a lot of different blanket patterns. However, there are some really elevated blanket patterns that I have been seeing, and it has been wanting me to elevate my blanket making game. I found some blanket patterns that can be anybody's style and that look very elevated and that anybody would be happy to have in their home. And it really does look like a nice, expensive blanket that you would get from like a boutique store. So I really wanted to share these patterns with you guys today. I have 24 of them. I have 4 different websites that I pull from for free patterns, and I did have some beautiful patterns from Hobbii.com that I wanted to share with you guys, but they were paid for patterns. And so the ones that I'm sharing in this video are the free patterns from Hobbii, but if you want some elevated patterns, Hobbii has some really awesome patterns that you have to pay for. Unless you have Hobbii Plus, then they're free, but I didn't want to include those because a lot of people might not have Hobbii Plus. So we're going to go ahead and start with Yarnspirations, but today in today's video we have Yarnspirations, Lion Brand, Premier Yarns, and Hobbii. That's where I pulled all of my free patterns from. They have some really elevated patterns on their websites because it's a great way for them to entice you to buy their yarn. So when I wrote down in the Canva document that is in the description box below all the information about the blankets, I included the weight of each of the different yarns and the yarn that's used for each of these different blankets. Now, the reason that I did that is because if you have any 3-weight, 4-weight, 5-weight yarn, you can use that free pattern with the yarn you already have, and therefore you don't have to buy anything new. But if you want, they do all have links to the yarn for those specific blankets as well. There might be some with yarn that is no longer available eventually. At the time that I looked up all of these different patterns, I made sure not to include anything that was discontinued, but it's hard to say when they're going to discontinue a line, so there's no saying if all those yarns are going to be available anyway by the time you are ready to work on that pattern or buy the yarn for that pattern. So it is important to know what weight yarn that they're using so that you can always swap it for your own alternative. But anyways, let's go ahead and jump right in with Yarnspirations. The first blanket that I have for you is called the Here and There Crochet Blanket. The Here and There Bernat Blanket pattern is a beautiful pattern with a lot of different stitches to really elevate the pattern, and they're only using a solid white base to make the pattern. Now, this specific blanket actually reminded me of something that I thought that both of my sisters would like. They kind of have, way more so than me, that beige aesthetic, which is fine. Everybody has their own style, and I think their homes are lovely. So this is something that I would want to crochet for them to have like something I would consider an elevated piece in their home. Now, this pattern right here is made with a 6-weight Bernat blanket yarn. The thing I like about the Here and There Crochet Blanket is since it is using a Bernat blanket yarn, it is probably going to work up fairly quickly. It also does have some texture to it, so that does mean it's probably going to eat the yarn fairly quickly as well. So that is something to keep in mind. The thing with the blanket yarn that I've noticed is the thicker the yarn, the heavier the blanket. So this is going to be a heavy blanket, but if that's something you're looking for, like a little bit of a weighted blanket for movie night, this blanket is going to be perfect for that. The next pattern I wanted to share with you guys is the Crochet Ripple Ridges blanket from Yarnspirations. Now, this one also has some texture to it, but I really like how the yarn that they use with this already has an ombre effect. They use an ombre yarn, so you just have to get one color and keep on stitching until you reach the length of the blanket that you want the blanket to be. I really like this one. It looks like an elevated pattern. It is a little bit more complicated than the Here and There blanket that I just shared with you guys. The Here and There blanket is an easy pattern. This one right here, the Crochet Ripple Ridges Blanket, it is an intermediate pattern, so it's going to take a little bit more skill, but even as a beginner, I do believe that you could follow this tutorial and make this fairly easy, or you could probably even find something very similar online that has a video tutorial and get this yarn and do it using a video tutorial. But I do like this blanket. I think that even as a beginner you could do it if you take the time to stop and like learn each of the different stitch patterns. But I do like this Ripple Ridges blanket pattern as well. So the first blanket we shared is a 6-weight yarn. The second blanket we shared is a 4-weight yarn, and apparently this next blanket is a 6-weight yarn that is used for this pattern. Now do keep in mind you can use this pattern with any weight yarn. It's just going to change the dimension that is outlined in the pattern. I really liked this blanket pattern. There are so many free patterns on Yarnspirations, and trust me when I tell you, I looked through their entire selection to bring you this selection of blankets, and this one was one that I was like, it says it's easy and there might be a lot of color changes, but it's another one that looks like it's very complicated. There's something about the way that this is put together that just, it looks like a checkerboard, but like multiple different checkerboards all over the place. It's using the Bernat Maker yarn, which is a yarn that I haven't tried before, but I did look into the yarn a little bit and it looks like it's a yarn with like a tubular construction. So if you don't like the splitting that you get from yarn, or you're a newbie, between the easy crochet pattern and the elevated look that you get, I really think this could be a great way to get started into blankets. So this next pattern, the fourth one from Yarnspirations, is a hairpin lace crochet blanket. Now the reason I wanted to add this blanket in there is I wanted to have a few different baby blanket options, and this is a great baby blanket option. This one is using Bernat Softy yarn, but you can make a bigger version of this blanket just like any of the others. Just do more of the repeats to make it the size that you want to make it. But this is another intermediate pattern. It does require a little bit more crochet skills to do this pattern, but I did make sure to include some easy and some intermediate so that y'all can choose if you want to try an intermediate pattern or stick with an easy pattern but still get an elevated look by the end of it. This is using a weight 3 yarn. The Bernat Softy Baby yarn is a weight 3 or a DK weight yarn. So if you have that weight of yarn laying around and you're not sure what to do with it, this is a great option. It doesn't matter if it's a solid color or if it's one that has variegation to it. It would make a beautiful blanket. I absolutely love this look, and I would love to see what this blanket looks like using like a variegated or a hand-dyed or even just like a self-striping yarn. I feel like different colors would really make that hairpin lace like pop. Not all of their patterns have reviews on them, but this pattern has 137 5-star reviews. But this pattern is like 33 pages long if I'm remembering the page count correctly. However, the structure of the pattern for this blanket is broken out by week. It's broken out for 4 different weeks, and this is a crochet crowd crochet along. So if you want to, I'm sure they probably still have their crochet along videos up on their YouTube channel. I have followed along with some of the crochet crowd crochet alongs before, and so you could make this at any time and just go back to the time when they had these videos filmed and crochet along with them. That's really neat about the internet, is it doesn't matter if it's on trend or if it's like the new thing or not, but when you find something and it's new to you, you can still go back and do like the whole crochet along. I just love that. Like, the internet is so awesome. So this is the last one from Yarnspirations, and I did want to put this one last because a lot of the ones that I'm sharing with you guys, they're like for cozy season, and I did share some ones that can be kind of Christmassy, but this one like is Christmassy. This one is called the Free Red Heart Study of Christmas Cookie Blanket Pattern. I have seen this pattern before, and I have wanted to make it. Apparently I wanted to make other things more than I've wanted to make this. However, I think this is an absolutely beautiful pattern, and I do hope to make this blanket one day as well. This is definitely on my to make list, and I'm sure the picture doesn't do it any justice. I'm sure once you have the blanket and it has all these different textures to it, it's just gonna be even better. But what's really neat about this is you can use it as like a blanket, or you can use it and make it a rug. I know personally, my husband, when I made the circular rug that I made, I was like, well, I'm using a heavier weight yarn. Maybe this will have to be a rug. And he's like, well, it's a circle. It has to be a rug. I'm like, circle can still be a blanket, but I kind of got where he was going. Like, he likes his blankets to be more like square blankets or rectangular blankets. So that totally makes sense. But if you like the circular blankets, this is a really cool one, or you can make it into a rug too. That's all I have for Yarnspirations. And in the Canva document, the next one that I have listed is for Premier Yarns. So we're going to go to the Premier Yarns patterns next. So the first pattern we have from Premier Yarns is this Ancient Lights throw. And I don't know what it is. I know that they have like that dark purple to light and then dark again. And it kind of gives it this look like it's being hit by the light or something like that. But this one is like one of the most elevated patterns, probably one of my favorite ones on this list. I don't know if it's just the colors that they use or if I would like it in any color, but I definitely love this pattern. Now, this pattern uses a medium 4-weight yarn. It is the Premier Anti-Pilling yarn, and I'm really glad that that's the yarn that they use for this. I actually have been wearing my crocheted shirts, and I didn't use an anti-pilling yarn. I used a beautiful Sirdar yarn spun yarn, and then I washed my shirts because it's an acrylic and you can wash it. And it did kind of like soften up the yarn and everything, which was great. But then I started to notice like all this pilling that I have, and I don't know how to get rid of it because I haven't had to deal with it before. So now I'm having to figure that out. If you have any suggestions for me, please leave them in the comments below. But because of this shirt that I'm wearing and the other couple that I made that are similar to it, I kind of like the idea of anti-pilling yarn more and cotton yarn, and now I see the reason for all these different yarns. Like, acrylic is great because it's cheap, but I'd rather spend a little bit more on the anti-pilling yarn. That's just me personally. Now, believe it or not, this is not the only purple and tan blanket that I fell in love with from Premier Yarns. I will be showing you guys another one, but first, we're going to go ahead and go over to the linen stitch blanket. Okay, so this next blanket pattern, I have to be very honest with you guys about the yarn that's used. This is using the Just Chenille cone. According to the pattern, you need 1 cone of cocoa and 1 cone of snickerdoodle, okay? Now, I have a brown and a white color of the cone, and I have bought these cones before. Now, when I bought the cone, I tried to use it to make a blanket, and I tried to use it to make amigurumi. I didn't love the stitch definition to it, but when I saw this linen stitch blanket, I was like, wait a minute, I think I can do this one, because even though the stitch definition isn't great, you can still see that you're working into the chain 1 space, and that way you don't have to, it doesn't have to be like too complicated. You're working into a chain 1 space on the linen stitch. And so I was like, you know what? I'm actually excited to use it now. Okay, so I'm excited. This is on my to make list. I have the yarn here in my semi right now today, and I'm looking forward to getting into this blanket. I am first making a backdrop for like the curtain behind the sleeper area. I want to separate the sleeper area from the driver's area. So I've been making some dark blue and light blue like squares to put up and make a curtain. And I haven't shared much about me like making this project because I'm just working up squares in my spare time. And that's really been like where a lot of my crochet time has been, is like in making granny squares to make this curtain. So once I finally have that made, I'll have a little bit more of a like more crochet-esque backdrop for when I'm filming in the truck. And I want to make like a tapestry that I can hang here as well. Like, I kind of want to have like a little bit of a backdrop here and a backdrop here for when I'm not sharing pictures. I kind of leave this space open in my video like on purpose, the way I have my camera set up and everything, because I want to have a place for like the pictures to go, but I don't want this like open space to always just be blank. I want to have something crocheted here, but I want to have it to where like I can roll it up and like kind of store it when I'm not using it, and then when I'm parked and needing to film, then I can just have the tapestry piece like hanging right here. I don't know, you'll have to let me know what you think about that idea, but I'm in my truck a lot. That's just the reality of the situation, and I just want to make it as homey as possible. Hence the recently spray painted blue color. It's not done. We've only done a couple layers of blue, but you know, it still makes my heart happy to have something other than gray and black inside the truck. And I'm really happy that I'm like starting to add some crocheted elements into my truck as well. I think I'm going to add a crocheted seat cover, at least to this passenger seat. If my husband loves it, then I can do it to the other seat as well. But I'm going to start with the passenger seat and see how he likes it. And then if he loves it, I might do it for the passenger or for the driver's seat as well. This next pattern is called the Expanding Cables Throw, and it's using an anti-pilling everyday yarn, but it's using the bulky yarn, so it's actually going to work up super quick. However, it does require 23 balls of this yarn, which seems like a lot, but there's only so much yarn in those little skeins of the everyday anti-pilling basic bulky, right? I can actually look. I think it's only got like 100 yards or something. 87 yards. So yeah, even less than what I thought. So there's 87 yards per skein in this. So 23 makes sense because usually you want like at least 2,000 yards to make a decent sized blanket. So I totally get why you have to have 23 yards or 23 skeins of this yarn. But this one right here is really gorgeous. I really like the photography, but the intricacy of the stitches, that even with a solid colored yarn, it just has these dips and valleys that just make it look so much more elevated than other crochet blankets, is why I had to include this on the list of elevated crochet blankets. The Cable Columns Throw is a gorgeous throw blanket. I really like the pattern. It looks like it's going to be a little bit easier than some of the other patterns. So like between this pattern and the previous pattern we just looked at, this Cable Columns Throw is going to be a little bit easier in my opinion, but I do think that any intermediate crocheter can do this. I have made a blanket with cables in it before, and it was a little bit more advanced than this. I really loved the blanket. I ended up putting a silk backer on it and giving it to my mom to gift it to my niece, and I'm really glad she has it. I love it. I didn't love the way I did the silk backer on it, but it was still a gorgeous blanket. Like, those cables just really elevate the pattern. Now, this one is using a 6-weight Premier Basic super bulky yarn, and it is calling for a 9mm hook. So this one is going to be one that works up super quickly as well. And I really like that about this pattern. If you're looking for like a quick Christmas gift, this right here and the previous one are both great options. This next blanket from Premier is called Below the Fade Throw. This is the other purple and tan blanket that I found from Premier Yarns that was a showstopper to me. So from the front, this one is absolutely gorgeous. And even when you look at the back, it doesn't look terrible. It just looks more like striped, as you can see from this photo. But the front is what you were going for here. I absolutely love this blanket. Unfortunately, this is another one on my to make list. I have way too much stuff on my to make list. I don't know if I'll ever get to all of them, but I can tell you this one came into my email address. It's a newer pattern, and as soon as I saw it, I was like, I need to make that. That's beautiful, that's gorgeous, and that's really the first thing that I thought when I saw this one. This one is using Eggplant and Cappuccino. It's using the Premier Anti-Pilling Everyday Decay yarn. So it's going to be a 3-weight yarn. I really like the colors that they used here. Like, I almost feel like if I made it, I would want to make it in the colors that they did here, just like the other purple and tan one. So maybe I really like purple and tan stuff. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. But anyway, I had to share this one with you guys because it is such an elevated pattern, and I'm hoping with my skills I'll be able to make it. I will share it with you guys if I ever do start to make it, but it's on my list. It's on my list of things I have to make. Last but not least, we have the Nimbus Naptime Blanket. This one is using a new yarn that recently came out from Premier Yarns. I absolutely love this blanket, and I thought this would make a really awesome baby blanket. I do believe I did one baby blanket pattern per site that I used to get these different free patterns collections for you guys. I could be wrong, but I do believe, if I'm not mistaken, there should be a baby blanket in each of these. But anyways, this is the last one from Premier Yarns, and this one is using Premier Karma yarn, which is a new yarn. It's like a variegated yarn. They have the blue variegated one, and then they have one that is it's called Blanc de Blanc, which is the white. So that one probably has no variegation. It's probably just white. Looking at the clouds, it doesn't look like it's like white to off-white. It looks like it's just a solid white yarn. But yeah, this yarn is new. I haven't seen it before. It's a bulky weight yarn. It's 51% acrylic, 34% cotton, and 15% nylon. This next blanket is called the Ripple Afghan. It is from Lion Brand Yarns, and I really like this pattern as well. What's really neat about this pattern is this is going to be an easy pattern, but it really makes it look elevated, those like peaks and valleys. I really like the color combo that they went here, but you can go with any color combo that you want. This one is also using a medium weight number 4 yarn. It's made with Love, the cottony one yarn from Premier Yarns. They used 3 balls of each color, but again, as stated before, you can use whatever yarn that you want, but I really like the color combo they went with here. I've made a similar blanket before using just one color and then doing a border around it, and even though there was only one color and you couldn't see the peaks and valleys quite as much because it didn't have the color change, it was still a beautiful blanket. I gifted it to my sister, and she uses it in her home, and every so often when I go visit her, I get to use the blanket as well. So though it was a gift for her, I get to use it as well. I love that for it. Now, this next blanket is also from Lion Brand Yarns. It's called the Arwin blanket, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I really like this blanket because even though it has a very simple construction, like very simple stitches are used to put this blanket together, the way that they do the color change makes it elevated, you know? So it's like an easy pattern, but the finished result is a very elevated result. Do it using any color that you want. They use the Vanna's Choice yarn. There's actually quite a few of the patterns that I found for blankets that's using Vanna's Choice yarn. The Vanna's Choice yarn, from my memory, it's a weight 4 medium weight yarn, but this one is absolutely adorable as well. This next blanket is called the Circle of Flowers Afghan, and I really like this blanket. This is more of like a home decor piece than it is like a blanket that's going to keep you warm. But either way, I think it's a beautiful piece, and you can use it to cover up. But with how big some of the holes are, don't expect it to keep you super warm, but it will keep you super fashionable. This one also uses Vanna's Choice yarn, which is that weight 4 medium weight yarn. But the color choices that they went with in this yarn are very beautiful. You can make it a little bit more vibrant or go with something a little bit more muted like this. The neat thing about this is it like kind of takes my style of like multiple colors used together, but it's something that I feel like my sisters would really like still in their home because it's using muted enough colors that it wouldn't stand out too much in their home, you know? So that is really nice. I like the like pastel colors that this yarn line comes in as well. I didn't really realize the variety of yarn that Vanna's Choice yarn had. I've never used Vanna's Choice yarn, but I'm thinking I might have to. So this pattern is called the Diagonal Granny Afghan pattern. This is another one using Vanna's Choice linen yarn. I think this one is absolutely gorgeous. You can see in this picture that they share of the pattern that there's a lot of texture and a lot of like holes to it. I really like how you still have those like valleys, those V's at the end of the blanket, and they have like a picot stitch, it looks like, or something similar to that along the side of the blanket. I mean, this picture does really show you what you're going to get out of this one. This is another one where it should be fairly easy to work up. It looks like it's just like granny squares, if I'm not mistaken, that are all connected together. So if that is the correct construction, this is going to be a fairly simple construction, but it also depends on if you like to make granny squares or not. I feel like sometimes when I want to make a blanket, I don't want to make a bunch of granny squares and then put them together. It feels like it takes longer. It might not take longer, but it just feels like it takes longer. So could be a personal choice. Either way, this Diagonal Granny Afghan pattern is absolutely gorgeous, and it again uses a medium number 4 weight yarn. This next pattern is called the New Wave Throw, and I really like the color choices that they went with this one as well. Again, make it your own, but I love their color choices. I feel like a lot of the designers that are making these patterns have just such a good choice of color palette when they're making these different blankets. This one is using homespun yarn, and the homespun yarn is a bulky 5-weight yarn, so this blanket is going to be made a little bit quicker, like the pattern's going to come together a little bit quicker because of the size of the yarn. I don't feel like it's going to be too heavy, but it's going to be like nice and thick and cozy. I really like a weight 5 yarn for a blanket. I think that's a great place for a blanket to be, is like a weight 5 category. Weight 4 and weight 3 works too. I actually even recently made myself a weight 2 blanket. What I was thinking when I did that, I don't know, I wanted the stitches to be super tight and super close together, and I wanted to use that yarn. It was the Big Twist Supernova yarn, and I loved it, and I have it as a car blanket, and I keep it in my car now, but I only get to use it when I'm at the yard and near my car, but that's often enough for me. The last pattern that I want to share from the Lion brand website is this Myrtle Baby Afghan. Now, this specific blanket pattern I have used before, or something similar to it I have used before. I made my brother-in-law a blanket for Christmas last year using Bernat blanket yarn, and I wanted to make it where it was nice and big and cozy for him, so I used a whole big garbage bag full of Bernat blanket yarn, and what I did was I used like white as the base color, and then I alternated that smaller color that's in between the like the maroon color, I guess, in this blanket. That color I used maroon and yellow, so it was like white with maroon and yellow stripes, and that way it was able to be kind of like muted, but it was for his team colors to be like the Redskins are his team, Commanders, I don't remember what they changed their name to, but that was his team, and so I wanted to do his blanket to kind of be like the colors of his team, but my sister was kind of like, well, I would prefer it be a little bit more beige so it doesn't stand out with everything else. So I met her needs, but still was able to do like some colors that represented his team and make it a little bit like personalized to him and his team. So I thought that was really cool, and you can of course do that as well. You can just use 2 colors like they did, or you can like do a rainbow where the red is and like a white or a black where the pink is. So I mean, really make it your own, and that's what I love about crochet is us as artists can really just take it and run with it. But this pattern is super easy to do. It's just like a granny cluster stitch followed by single crochet and chains. You have to like chain in between the single crochets, and then the granny cluster attaches to the chain between the single crochets. So I like this pattern. I've used a pattern similar to this before, and I highly recommend it. Okay, so we're moving on to the Hobie patterns. Now keep in mind, I had wanted to share free patterns for this blanket, so these aren't the most elevated patterns available on Hobie, and if you have Hobie Plus, go check out their blanket pattern. It is, some of them are even better than what I was able to find on Yarnspirations, Premier, or Lion brand. But in the in the name of like having free patterns for you guys, these are my favorite of their free patterns, and I have 6 of these patterns as well. Oh, yes. Okay. So the soft squares padded throw, I really, really loved this. You can make this as just like a lap blanket, or you can make it a big, huge, like quilted blanket. And it just looks so soft and cozy and squishy. And I'm not gonna lie, like looking back at this again, I know I have a lot that I've really liked. This has 3 reviews. It's 5-star reviewed from the 3 reviews that it does have. I just kind of think that this looks super cozy, and you could make it kind of like a quilt where you kind of mix some of your favorite colors in there or whatever, but oh, it just looks so cozy. And this pattern specifically is clearly like not a very big pattern, but I really kind of, it makes me want to do a big soft squishy blanket where I make like these squares and then like I shove them with and this is probably exactly what they do for that. You make a square, a front and a back to the square, and then you shove it with stuffing, and then you close it up, and then like you sew all of them together. That's probably how this is made, but it makes me want to make something like that so I can have something squishy and it can be like a blanket and a pillow all in one. Okay, sorry. Anyway, next. I didn't even tell you guys which which yarn they use for this one. This one specifically uses Amigo Chunky Bulky 5-weight yarn. I love it. It's absolutely adorable. Would also be really great. Like, I know some people like to make blankets for pet shelters and stuff. I feel like it would be really great for something like that, because then they'd have like this padded blanket that they can lay on and have like this extra comfort. If you wanted to do something like that, that would be great. Okay. All right. We are moving on to the next pattern because I could talk about that one for a while. So this next pattern is called the Light and Shadows Throw from Hobie. This one is really cool. It reminds me of some of the like sci-fi books and movies that I like to watch, because, you know, you have this like light side on the surface, and then like when you really get in there, there's like this deep dark story. So it's kind of cool, and it really kind of reminds me of like my aesthetic that I like with my movies and stuff. I don't know how they get this to really like look the way that it does, but it looks so cool. Like, I could see myself making this one as well. This Lights and Shadows throw is using Hobie Dream Color. It's a super fine 1-weight, so it's going to be tedious to make this blanket, but I think it would be worth it. This looks like a really awesome blanket. I'm going to leave it at that, okay? Next up, we have the Wonderland wrap. Now, I'm forgetting how much I loved the Hobie ones. Even though I had to select all the free ones, I still found some really awesome free ones. Just looking at the name, the Wonderland wrap, before I even pull up the photo, like, I'm like, oh yeah, I love that one. So this one right here is using the Twister and Twister Solid yarn. I really like this. You use 2 of the Twister colors and then 1 of the solid for like the tassels, but you can do any of the Twister colors. They show quite a good selection of colors on here, but basically what you do is you're going to work from the center on one end, and then you're going to work from the outside on the other end. So that way you get the fade that they're looking for in this throw. This is absolutely adorable. I love it. I want to make it. What can I say? I love making, apparently I've got to go on a blanket making spree again. I've done it before, and I will do it again apparently, because they make me excited. So we're going to move on to one that I probably am not going to show as much excitement about, but I still like. This is another one that actually I didn't think about the making these for pet shelters until I saw this, and I was like, oh yeah, sometimes we like to make stuff and donate it to pet shelters or to homeless shelters, but this one would be another one that's great for a pet shelter because of the paw prints that are in there, or just a dog lover. Like, if you have a dog lover in your life, you really want to make them a blanket, and you make them this blanket, I feel like this is going to be a blanket that they really appreciate if they're an animal lover. So this one's really neat. It's definitely elevated. It's not something I've seen before. I like it, and it's exciting to me, but it's not as exciting as the first 3 that we talked about. So I have 2 more from Hobie that I want to share with you guys. But first, I just want to say this one is using Amigo Chunky yarn. It's used a 5-weight yarn, so this one is going to work up fairly quickly as well. And because of that, because of the fact that it's going to work up fairly quickly, since I'm not as excited about like the pattern on this one, I still feel like I might make it just so I could like have a blanket that worked up super quick. But anyways, the next blanket is called the Puff Mandala blanket. Now, this one is another blanket that's using like a 5-weight yarn, so it's going to work up fairly quickly. I love the tassels on the end. I love that it almost looks like the star blanket, but then it looks like a hypnotic circle, like a little target. I don't know. There's so many things. Like, it's like this one right here had inspiration coming from many angles, it looks like, and I think it would be a great beach blanket. I mean, why not, right? But I love the tassels. I love the baubles that like come out from the center and really kind of make it, you know, look like you can see the growth, and like it looks like triangles, you know. I don't even know how to verbalize all the different things I like about this blanket, but I have to say another thing that's really unique to this that I haven't seen before is, like, I've seen a lot of circular blankets. They have like the triangle. Like, I haven't seen that before, and that's really unique about this pattern. There's a lot of unique things about it, but I really like this pattern. It's gorgeous. What can I say? And again, using a 5-weight yarn is just going to make it really work up quickly. This next blanket is called the Deluxe Baby Blanket. I was going back and forth between a couple of different baby blanket patterns to include through Hobie, and this is the one that I ultimately landed on because I really like the ombre effect that this one has. I think it looks really, really neat, and whether it's in the purple color or the blue color, like, it just looks really good. So I love this. This is the yarn that is using the cotton sultan yarn. This one has 74 reviews and a 4.9 star review out of those 74 reviews. So that just tells me that this is going to be an easy pattern to follow. Now, I try to find patterns that have either good reviews or no reviews to share with you guys, because I don't want to share with you guys a pattern and then you have like a horrible time making it. This deluxe baby blanket, this looks like an easy pattern to follow. I was like kind of looking at the stitch. It looks like it's an easy repeat stitch. And so I'm sure that it's going to be something that is fairly easy. I like this deluxe baby blanket pattern as well, which is not surprising because I loved all of the blanket patterns that I shared with you guys today. All of the patterns I shared with you, I thought were elevated blanket patterns. Something a little bit more than just your double crochet blanket or your granny square blanket or whatever, right? So I really hope that you enjoyed today's video. Thank you so much for sticking around to the end of the video if you made it this far. If you want to see more videos like this, please feel free to hit the notification bell and subscribe to my channel. I do post videos every Saturday. Very rarely do I miss a Saturday, but it does happen from time to time. I have been to a point where I've like felt sick, and I've been to a point where I've been on vacation and was busy beforehand and after and didn't really have time. But usually I'll post on my community page that I'm not going to have a video, just like to update you guys and let you know. And sometimes I'll post a short to let my audience know, but I do let you know if I'm going to miss it. But other than that, it's usually every Saturday. I try, right? But anyway, thank you so much for joining me. Feel free to like, comment, share, subscribe, do all those fun things. And of course, as always, I hope you have a great rest of your day.